Meet Violet. Every day, you can find her putting miles on her toy trucks. It doesn't matter if it's a teddy bear, a doll, or a stack of building blocks. Deliveries need to be made. And Violet is the only one who knows how to get them from point A to point B. At SAE International, giving students like Violet the chance to experience, collaborate, and think about ways to move society into the future is what motivates all we do. Because we know that in a few years, she'll be showing her little sister how she built the winning jet toy car for Mr. Murphy's 6th grade science class. And a few years after that, she'll be working with her college classmates to build their very own self-driving car, which in turn will lead to a job as a junior and then lead engineer for an autonomous trucking company. The SAE STEM programs, which start in pre-K and go all the way through college, will put Violet on a path of discovery, innovation, and inspiration. While it might just be playtime for now, we know that someday Violet's going to walk confidently into her office. Deliveries will need to be made, and she'll be the one making it happen. Good luck, Violet.
Hey everybody, Mark Z here. Welcome to Supercharged. Today, our special guest here, you can see her on the screen, Carla Bailo. Hey Carla, good to see you
Hi.
again. I get a chance to see you and all of our other SA colleagues once or twice a year at WCX or
Mhm.
Aerotech or things like that. And we don't get a chance to talk a lot. So I really enjoy the opportunity to chat with you here for a few minutes and learn about how things been going with you. You just wrapped up a term as SAE president. How did that go?
Well, it certainly wasn't exactly what I was expecting. We we had a fun year. As you know, we had, a CEO search, and I became interim co-CEO for a short period of time. So, it wasn't necessarily the get out and talk about what SAE is doing, go visit people globally. It was more, let's go to Pittsburgh, let's get our house in order and make SAE the organization that we all want it to be. So, in that regard, even though it wasn't exactly what I expected, I think it's exactly what SAE needed. So, I think it went great. And now my year is past president. I'm still on the board. I'm able to still be engaged. I'm able to work with the new CEO, make sure, that everything is going smoothly and well there. And then after this, I think I'm finally off the board for a little bit. So, but I'll still do things.
Well, I can tell you from, the SA Detroit section point of view, and just as a member, longtime member, you've made a difference and our team made a difference. And I can see some changes. I can see, things take time, but it's,
Yes, they do.
we've got something rolling here and something that's good for everyone, good for everyone. We're
Good.
able to talk about that. In more detail, I think when you get into some of your focus areas. Remember when you were the president, you had those focus areas, and I think there were like three of them. The first one was that
Correct.
inclusion, and what do you think about that? In now, anything change nowadays, or what's your thoughts there?
I think there's a lot of wordplay going on. So, nobody is allowed to have DEI as an initiative. DEI offices have been closed. Colleges have been told you must, change the names of this scholarship or that scholarship and stop, promoting DEI. However, when you think about you know the solutions that need to be made for the problems that we have, diversity to me means having people from different backgrounds, different mindsets, different ways of thinking to solve problems. And this is what's going to make the best solution. And you're not going to get that from a homogeneous population. So even if we don't call it DEI and we call it, sustainability, or we call it inclusion, at least things within SAE are not going to change. And, things that the engineering community is going to work on, that's not going to change either. We still need to have that mindset and different ways of thinking coming in so that we can really tackle some of these big issues that, as a community we're facing.
Yeah, engineers solve problems. I've learned that through my career, and some of those problems are pretty hard, right? Having
Yeah.
the most uh, engagement you can get, and including everybody in that discussion. It's all teamwork too, right?
Yeah,
Teams.
I really learned it when I was in academia for a while and worked on the Smart City Challenge, which was back in 2017, so it was a few years back. But as an engineer and a mobility engineer, when the Smart City Challenge came around, I'm like, okay, we need to have autonomous shuttles, we need to have, EV solutions, we need this and we need that. Then I went out and saw what was really in the city. And I said, whoa, wait a second. We have a lot of people that just can't get to work, can't get to healthcare, can't get to educational opportunities. Maybe we need to think about bus rapid transit or, other solutions rather than moving to these very complex solutions that really don't fit the city. So, one thing that I learned right off the bat was first, I needed everybody from the city included from all parts of the city. But secondly, engineers are really good at finding solutions and creating new technology and then going to find a problem to apply it to. And we have to reverse that. We have to first understand the problem fully and then think about what solution it's going to be. It might be a high-tech solution. It might be a very simple solution. If we look at some of the work that's done by Engineers Without Borders in some of the African communities, bridges, water, very basic things, they're not applying the same solution that they apply in a first world country. They can't afford to, and they don't need it. So, really thinking about what is needed can lead you to what technology can solve the right problem.
You know, engineers improve someone's life, don't they? Right? And when I think of SAE, mobility engineering that we're into, we're improving the lives of folks that are in cities and take airplanes to go fly to visit their grandchildren, to go on business trip someplace overseas, or just pop down to Florida for a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So we're improving the lives of people through
Right.
engineering. And anyway, my thought in terms of how you map that back into SAE, it fits really well, what we just
Yeah,
said.
and when you think about improving people's lives, when you look at, let's go back to diversity for a minute, you look at those fields where young women tend to be entering. They're in the biomedical, they're in the chemical fields predominantly, they're in the computer systems field. And most of those, you can see a direct correlation to human beings and improving their lives. So I think we really have to talk differently about all of engineering. The mechanical engineers, they're involved in, some of these great products in your house. I mean, what I always tell young females is everything you touch today, the clothes you put on, the makeup container you use, that was all designed by an engineer. That was not designed by somebody else. So the impact that you can have by simplifying or improving designs goes in so many different facets of life. And there's a lot of engineers that I went to school with that are now CEOs at Gap, for example, or one of them is head of Caesars Entertainment, because the things that you learn, logistics, just in time delivery, keeping costs down, but having good product, all of this goes into so many different facets of life. So, really talking about engineering differently than perhaps the way we talk about it, it's not all about making hot rod cars, although we love them.
Yeah.
It's not all about dune buggies and EVs and solar cars. There's a lot more to engineering than that. And I think if we expanded the way we talk about it in so many settings, I think so many young minds would be open.
Yeah,
And we have
that's
to make it sexy and cool,
yeah. Engineering
because
has to be cool.
you're fighting
Yeah,
TikTok, you're fighting these
right.
celebrities. So, how we can talk about it differently to make it fun.
So, talking about fun and sexy and cool, let's turn to your next focus area that you had was technical standards. How cool is that, right?
Well, I don't know what your definition of cool is, but I mean, there's a lot of people get geeked out by it. If it's a subject that you love, of course that's cool. But you got to find that right topic that you're crazy about. I
Yeah,
always tell people, if you're in a career or you're doing something that every day you don't go in and say, gee, I really love this. I love what I'm doing. I'm making a difference. You probably should find something else to do.
right, right,
Now that doesn't mean every day you're going to feel that way. There's a lot of days I went to work and said, "Oh God, I don't really feel like
right.
going in today." But
Yeah.
once I got there, got engaged in what needed to be done, it made all the difference. And so when you think about how we improve people's lives with standards, keeping them safe. I mean, everybody who gets on a plane or behind the wheel of a vehicle, in an Uber, in a bus, any mode that they go from A to B, they want to feel safe and secure that nothing's going to happen. Um, and this is what our standards help to do. So I wouldn't, they're not maybe sexy, but they're so needed. And people, it's one of those things that people, they expect, but they don't even know who's behind the scenes making it happen.
Yeah.
Or some of the upcoming, we just did the charging standard for
Mhm.
all those people who went to a charging station and they didn't have the right adapter, they didn't have the right kind of charger. Thank goodness, hey, we've got a charging standard now.
Yeah, you use it
So
every day and it's
everything to simplify their lives
yeah.
and make these experiences better. But a lot of it is behind the scenes. You don't see it. There's some magical wizard back there creating these ways that keep us safe and make things better for us.
Well, there's one more area I'd like to talk to you about before we wrap up here, and that's the digital technology and especially AI. I mean, is that the thing behind the scenes that we can all rely on and trust to keep us safe? And what are your thoughts there? I know that was another
Well,
focus area that you had.
well, it depends if you like hallucinations or not. But I'll tell you, I think, is one of the largest breakthroughs and changes that we're going to see in our industry and engineering in general. We have to be very careful with it, though, because it can spit out a lot of erroneous information depending where it searches for the information on the web. So I think it really depends what you're doing. And at the same time, there's a lot of common sense that you may lose if you rely on it too much. Things you need to figure out for yourself, how things work. Even if you can Google it, you can ask, it'll tell you, you can get a YouTube video, it'll tell you how to do it, but you still need to afterwards make sure you understand what it had you do, um, and understand the things that AI gave you in order to write that paper or to think about what your thesis project should be. Yeah, use it smartly, but still use your own brain, because AI is just spitting what's already out there and been done. Engineers need to create things that haven't been done yet, things that people don't even realize they're missing in their lives. That's what we can do as engineers. And that's not going to change.
You make a great point, and in fact, that's going to accelerate, isn't it? So your crystal ball, in the last minute or two, do you have any thoughts in the future? I mean, thinking back to a summer when I was a young person considering engineering, going into an engineering career, there were people just landing on the moon and they got there with a slide rule,
Yeah.
not with AI. So your thoughts about the future, anything there and mainly, technology is one thing, but this all these other areas to focus in, gosh, it's scary and exciting, isn't it?
It really is. And by the way, I'm reading a book right now called The Anxious Generation about how this technology is maybe not making lives better. So I think it's a really interesting read. If you get a chance, do take a look at it. But I think we have to be smart, and we have to be smart as parents and grandparents when we think about introducing technology to kids. Make sure that they still are learning themselves and have free play time, get out and explore, take risks, try things out. My gosh, I can't tell you how many times I blew up a chemistry lab. It got so bad in college, they wouldn't let me in there unless the professor was in there. But I wanted to see what happened. I was a chemistry nerd. So, what happened when I put these things together? I'm not telling you to let your kids blow up a lab, but really think about this good balance. Yes, technology is great, but so is learning on your own, discovery, being curious. Because if you just have technology, you lose that part of your brain where, you can be curious and create those solutions that are going to be more and more needed in the future world of technology driven solutions. And then for SAE, how can we use AI smartly? How can we see it as perhaps a challenge to some of the work that we're doing? And how can we be ahead of that challenge and make sure that we still have a unique proposition for the marketplace?
Well, that's a way to wrap it up. And I guess it's so much to do and so little time to do it. But we've got a great team, and SAE
For sure.
is all behind us, the organization. So thanks, Carla. Really enjoyed the chance to chat with you here and catching up on these things. And I want to let everybody know at the Detroit section, they appreciate your time as well. So at that, we'll wrap it up. Have a supercharged day, everybody. See you next time.
Bye, Mark.